Okay, it's time for a story time. My first story time ever, and it's not a fun one. Okay, so this story, I feel like I pushed it out of my head for a while. I kind of forgot that it happened until recently, and I was like, oh shit, that totally did happen. So, one day, this was last year, 1 year ago, the day after Christmas, I was walking back from a break. It was my last break. It was like 9 o'clock, and I was walking back. Totally normal day, nothing out of the ordinary. And I was walking with my friend from work. We'll just call her Kay. And I was walking with her, and I see a customer. And we're going to give her the name Moon. So I see Moon as I'm walking up, and I tell my friend Kay, I was like, oh my gosh, it's Moon, this customer. I love her. She's so nice. I always talk to her. So we had like a rapport. When I first started interacting with her, she was, other team members would kind of avoid her because she was what they called kind of like a handful. And personally, I always take those customers kind of under my wing. I'm like, you're a little handful, but I'll take care of you. Like, I don't mind it at all. I've met some really cool people from my job. So I'm like, I can deal with a couple crazies. You know what I mean? And I've got the patience for it. So I was like, cool, I'll take care of her. And we ended up I understood her. She had a lot of like health restrictions that she needed help with, so there were ingredients she would avoid, and she kind of needed to know all of the sub-ingredients for things. Like if there was a sauce, like she needed to know what oils were in the sauce and stuff. Understandable. I can do that. I can work with that. I'm like, oh, I know this lady. I'm going to go say hi to her. So we part ways. My break is over. I'm back on the clock. I'm back on the floor, you know. So I go up to her and I was like, hey, Moon, how are you doing? Nice to see you. How was your Christmas? Because it was the day after Christmas. She was not in a good mood. She was like, girl, my Christmas was awful, basically. And I was like, oh, man. Like, it happens like that sometimes. Sometimes Christmas doesn't go as planned. Like, I'm so sorry to hear that. She looks at me and she's like, you know, you are so nice. You're probably one of the nicest people I've ever met. And I just have to tell you, I'm not going to be around much longer. And I'm like, oh my God, she's sick, because I know she has these history and things going on in her life where she can't eat certain things, and she'll go from one weight and then she'll plummet down to another weight. And I've seen this over the years because I was at my job at this point for like 3 or 4 years. So I was like, oh, I've seen this, but like I understand. So I was like, what did they say? Like, did they tell you how long? Like, I was trying to talk to her because I felt bad that she was telling me that in my head, I'm like, oh, she just found out she's not going to live much longer. And she looked confused and she was like, no, I'm killing myself. And I was like, what? And she was like, yeah, I'm going to kill myself. And so I'm like panicked at this point. And I'm like, yourself? Like, what are you talking about? Like, no, you're not going to kill yourself. Like, no, what do you mean you're going to kill yourself? And she was like, yes, I am. And there's no convincing me otherwise. And I was like, no, what's wrong? Like, do you want to talk about anything? Like, is something really upsetting you that maybe you just want to get off your chest? Like, what's going on? What's up? So she goes on to tell me, long story short, because this part's really, it's sort of in the story, but it's not that crazy important. She tells me that her husband and her just haven't been working out, you know, like they're just not jiving. And she met this other guy at a club one night. They hit it off and they one night stand. One night stand turned into like she developed feelings for this guy, and he invited her over to like some like cabin thing, and they showered together. It was really intimate. She started going into detail that I really didn't want to hear, but I was listening because I was like, she needs this right now to get it off her chest. So I'm listening to her story, and then she's like, and I told him that I love him, and he didn't say he loved me back, and he got me an Uber home, and this was like an hour away from my house, and so I Ubered back. It was so expensive for him, but he did that, so like he must love me. And you could see she was just kind of going through this little internal like, oh, I don't know if he loves me or not. And I was like, yourself. Like, this is really just happening on the floor of my job. And there's so many people around, and I'm the supervisor, so like all the people that work under me are all around walking past. And she started crying. She started sobbing when she was telling me all this. And I was like, does anybody else see this right now? Does anybody else see what's happening right now? Like, this lady is sobbing. I've been talking to her. At this point, it's been like 20 minutes. And I'm like, does anybody else fucking see this? I was like, I don't know why. This was an awful idea. I don't recommend this, but I was just really worried about this woman. I was like, do you want to come over and like watch a movie? Like, you okay? Like, do you need to like just have like a girls' night? We'll watch a movie. You can vent about the stuff that's bothering you. Like, we could figure it out. Like, you don't have to kiss out. And she goes, no. She was like, I have a plan. I know. She told me where she was going to do it. She told me how she was going to do it. She had it all figured out. She had wrote out her letters already that she was working on. She was just going to mail them, and she was going to do it. And I was like, what the fuck? So I'm thinking, I'm like the last person she's talking to. This is like her cry for help. Like, she needs help. So my mind's racing at this point. I'm like, time is of the essence, because I get off soon. She knows what time the store closes, and she's like, I don't want her to come to my house, but I was panicked, so I said, come to my house, like, we'll figure it out. Second stupid thing I did, I gave her my phone number. But I gave her my number. I gave it to her because I'm like, this could really be it. And she called me so that I could have her number. But I will say, after all this, in the end, I blocked her number, and if she wouldn't have called me, I wouldn't have been able to block her number. So that was the silver lining of the fact that I gave this random person my phone number that I should not have given my phone number to. But, so going on from that, so I was like, no, don't do this, please, it's okay. And then she goes, God sent you. She was like, God and I created this plan for me self, and he sent you. You're an angel. Your only job here is to help me pull through my side, and you can't tell anybody. She was like, you promise you won't tell anybody? And I was like, okay, I won't tell anybody. All right. So she's like, you're my angel. God sent you, and you're helping me. I was like, no, not gonna help you. This plan is when I started realizing things were taking like a really, like, this was not just a sad whirlwind. This was like a problem. And I didn't see it at the time because I was in the middle of it all, and I was just like, it came out of nowhere. I genuinely wanted to help her. So then she's like, God sent you. You're an angel. And I was frightened at this point. I was like, I don't know what's happening. I don't know what she's signing me up for, but I want no part of it at all. So it keeps going, and at this point we're just kind of going in circles. She's like, nobody can tell me anything. Like, I have to do this. She was like, if you tell anybody, you're disrupting God's plan, and that's not okay. And I was like, I'm not disrupting God's plan. I don't know. Why are you putting all this on me? And in my head, I was like, my mind was like, what do we do? What do we say? Everything you say and do is important at this point. Like, this is really getting serious. Like, and at this point, I'm not joking. I'm not exaggerating. This has been going on for an hour at this point, this conversation, going round and round, her crying, and me trying to be like, hey, it's okay. And it just keeps going. And she keeps telling me more about this guy. I'm like, I don't even know anything about all this. Like, Moon, I'm really sorry, but but I'm not going to say that right now. And so it finally wraps up, and she tells me, I have a journal, the journal that I've been writing my letters in. And in the journal, I wrote down, an owl came to me on my patio while I was writing my side letters, and he told me, the owl, that you were going to come into my life to help me commit suicide. And I was like, what the no? And she was like, don't worry, when your shift is over and when we go have a movie night, I'll show you my book so you can see like what your job is. You can see my letters, and you can see my journal entry where I said that the owl told me he was sending you. And I was like, no owl sent me. So I realized it was getting really bad and that this was like a really negative situation, and I was getting a little scared too, because this is like too much for me at this point. I was like, I'm just working. So an hour of my shift is like, finally, she's like, I'm gonna wait for you outside until you're off and we're gonna go together. I was like, no, in my head, but I was like, okay, yeah, Moon, I will see you. We are gonna figure this out. And she's like, don't call the police. I was like, I would never. Freaking out at this point, terrified. I was like, I don't know what is gonna happen, because she's herself, she's a threat. I don't know what's gonna happen. I was really scared and I didn't know what to do. I'm not a professional, I don't know anything about this stuff. She leaves. I dart for the back, like behind multiple doors, multiple hallways, to the back where no customer can go or see me. First thing I do is I called 911. I called 911 and I said, this woman, it is 10 o'clock. This woman came in an hour ago, and for the last hour, she has been telling me her plan, that God sent me to her. An owl told her that I was like being manifested to come into her life and help her. And I'm terrified. They were like, is she a threat? And I was like, to herself? I think so, yes. And they were like, they asked me to let them know everything that happened. They asked for the address. I gave it. They said, like, can you check and see if she's still outside? I said, I'm not gonna go. So now, because by the time that I get through to the police officers, I was in tears. I didn't realize how far mentally this was gonna go, because in the time I was just thinking. But I was like in tears, because I'm thinking about it now, and I'm like, this woman just unloaded so much onto me right now, and I don't know what to do about it. My brain was just like rocked. So I'm crying, and I hang up the phone with the officer, put it on hold, and I asked them in the front, hey, like, can you guys walk outside and see if there is a woman? I described her, I said, can you please see if this woman is still outside? Like, can you go do a cart run or something like that? They said, okay. They walk and they come back, and I was like on edge. I was on edge. They come back on the phone and they're like, yes, she's sitting in her car, like she's looking down, like she's in her car, she's just sitting there. At this point, it's been like 20 minutes since we separated, or maybe even 25, because now we're talking to the officer and stuff. So I'm thinking, fuck, she's really waiting out there for me, and I'm scared. I don't know what to do. I don't want her to have my address. I wish I didn't give her my phone number. I don't want anything. I don't know what to do. And this is not like she's making me feel like I'm a part of something that I don't want to be a part of. Please, I'm talking to them. I tell them, yes, they said they're still outside. She's in her car. Like, it really does look like she's waiting for me. They said, okay, like, we're on our way. I said, thank you, hang up, frightened. Next thing I did, after I got off the phone and they said they were on their way, I called my boyfriend and I was like, Damon, please come get me. Like, and he was like, why, what's wrong? I explained the situation, and I'm in tears, sobbing on the phone, because I'm fucking rocked. Like, my world is rocked at this point. So he comes to pick me up. We leave my car. He's driving me home. And we drove. I was frightened. I was so scared, because I'm thinking, too, this woman knows where I work now. The cops come. What if she takes that anger out some way on me in the store? What if she comes and like does something? I don't know. Like, I was scared. I was really scared. She was so weird about it at the end, like, to where I'm thinking now, like, there was something beyond me going on there. Anyways, so he comes and picks me up, and he was like, do you want to drive around the front and see like if the cops came or what happened? Because the people in the store are already like, Kaylee, why are you crying? Why are there cops outside? What's going on? And you know, when people start asking you what's wrong, and even if you're like, okay, then it just makes you cry more. So I was like sobbing. I need to take this off. Okay. So he picks me up, and he was like, do you want to drive around to the front and just like see what's going on? Like, will that make you feel a little bit better? Because I was sobbing still, like I was crying. I was like, yeah, like let's go to the front, like I'm just curious, like let's drive. Not in the front, but he picked me up from the back door of the store, and he like drives around so you would see the front of the store, but from the street. So we're not actually driving in the parking lot, if that makes sense. There's like 10 cop cars surrounding her car, and I was frightened because they had to also get the license plate number for the car. So when they checked to see if the car was still in the front, I like take a little picture of the license plate so that I could give it to the police officer so they know which car to go and see. So we see the car. It's this little gray car. 10 cop cars. And I started crying even more because then I'm thinking, like, what if she's angry? Like, what if she's angry and she comes back to do something to me? Like, if she's going to do that to herself, she probably feels like she has nothing left to lose. I'm thinking, I don't know what is going to happen. So I ended up being off the next 2 days. I called, my job gave me this helpline of, like, if you're going through something kind of traumatic. And I didn't even realize at the time, like, how upsetting it was. I couldn't sleep that night. I was so scared. And I don't know why. I don't know why I was so scared, but I was scared. I was panicked. I was anxious. Like, I didn't know what was going on, and it was freaking me out. They kept calling me, the little therapy line, and I felt numb. I felt empty. It was so weird. It was such a strange experience because talking about it now, it's like okay because I've talked about it and I think I've gotten past it a little bit. But at the time, those days, I couldn't sleep. I couldn't eat. I was fucked up from hearing her say those things about herself. Like, it was, and I couldn't stop, like, replaying it all in my head, thinking what I could have done different. What did I do wrong? Should I have done something better? Did I fail her? Did I do the right thing? Like, it was so scary. And the next day, I had to work 2 days later, and these other 2 days I had been a lot on the phone and with the therapy people. And so when I went to work the next day, I like walked in and I couldn't even clock in. I just started crying. I saw my assistant manager by the time clock and I just started crying. I couldn't do it. Like, I could not do it. When I had parked my car, I called from my department, my like department manager, and he came out to the car and he like walked me because I stayed in my car. I was scared. I was scared to be in the parking lot because I was thinking, I don't know what could happen. I don't know what she's capable of doing. So he came to my car and he walked me inside my job. At the time clock, I saw my assistant manager for the whole store and I started crying. I couldn't do it. I was in there for like an hour and a half in her office just crying. Like, I could not get my mind straight. Like, I was a little fucked from it. Like, my brain was just like, what the fuck just happened? Trying to process it all. I'm glad she told me. And if what I experienced really did save a life, then I'm happy that that happened so she could be here still and not have hurt herself. But I couldn't make it that first day back at work. I had to leave. I couldn't do it. And I called so that somebody would walk me out to my car again because I was scared even just walking to my car. The next day, I got a little bit farther and it was inventory that night. I sat in the back my entire shift on the computer. I was like, I had to walk past the spot that it all happened, and I didn't think, but being there made me feel worse. As weird as it sounds, it took me a while to get past it, and I had a lot of like processing and healing to do. It was so weird, and I feel like it almost sounds selfish that I was affected by it, but it was just hearing stuff like that and having those mental images in my head of the things she said she wanted to do to herself and like her whole plan, and just like feeling kind of responsible for that. It was a lot that I took on that night emotionally, and honestly, I'm happy that hopefully, I haven't seen her since. She hasn't come in the store since. I don't know if she's embarrassed or if she's angry, if she's sad. I don't know if she's still holding on to it. I don't know. And that also scares me. And I don't have an end to this story. I forget it that it even happens sometimes, and then I'll see a customer that kind of looks like her, and I'll like take a step back and like my heart will sink a little, and then I'll see it's somebody different, and I'm like, I don't know what I would do if I saw her again. I don't know if it would reopen everything, if I would get closure. I don't know. I have no end to the story, but that is the craziest experience I ever had at work. There probably will not ever be an update because I don't think she's going to come back into the store ever again. That's it. That's all I got. That's the story. I do want to say, before I post it and I get this comment like, why didn't you just walk away, or like, why didn't you just like create a barrier? And I am aware now that I need to create better barriers between myself and customers. But also, like, you don't know how that situation was or being in that moment, because it was not as easy as it sounds to just walk away or to just disconnect myself from it, or like, it's like, where do you stop? It started as such an innocent conversation and it turned into this big thing afterwards, and I don't know. I don't know if what I did was right. I don't know if what I did was wrong. I don't know if how I feel about this is wrong. This is just the story of what I experienced. Just be careful, people. Be careful who you let affect you and who, I don't know. Just be careful. Be careful and be wary, because your feelings are important and you're only responsible for what you can carry. But also help people. I don't know. I don't know how to feel about it all. So it's important to help people, but only to what you're capable of doing.